Welcome back. This week, the Montgomery County Council approved a bill to enhance housing safety for tenants and families by requiring window guards be installed in multifamily dwellings. Now, Mike, this bill was enacted quickly after the death of a 2-year-old boy last October. Yet these types of accidents are fairly rare across the country at large. And I'm always concerned that the bars on the windows, besides looking terrible and making you feel like you're in a prison cell, create a hazard, a fire hazard, which occurs much more often than the accident that it's designed to prevent.
No, I agree. I think the challenge is, that it was tragic when the 2-year-old fell to their death. It's a horrible situation for the family, and I think it certainly brings attention to that. But I struggle when any legislative body, and particularly our local county council, rushes so quickly to kind of enact something to address and right a wrong that I'm not necessarily sure is a wrong in the first place. It's a very tragic situation. And so I didn't follow all of the specifics of this, but I didn't see any indication that all of a sudden this was a huge issue that needed to be addressed. It was, again, a single tragic incident. And so I just think a lot of times legislative bodies need to take a step back and go, where are we really and where do we need to be? Because oftentimes the cure is worse than the disease. And I think this may be another situation for that. Again, not in any way demeaning the tragedy that the family withstood and the challenges that are there. But I struggle to see what bigger problem we're trying to solve.
Well, again, I'm really concerned about the safety aspect from a fire perspective. And when you look at the types of window guards that may be required, they're all permanent fixtures. And if you're on a third floor apartment, are you going to be prevented from escaping? I just wonder if that was,
There's a higher law. There's a higher law in legislation, which is the law of unintended consequences, and that's really where you want to look to, sort of the institutes of safety.
The aesthetics aside, I feel like you're going to drive by these apartments and they're all going to look like they belong on The Wire, the Baltimore cop show. Anyway, Mark, I wanted to talk to you about baseball because it is baseball season. And even though it's no longer the national pastime because of the All-Star game has caused such controversy, today is opening day at Camden Yards. And 11,000 fans will be in attendance. 2 days ago, on Tuesday, when the Nationals held its opening game, talk about being tongue-tied, there were only 5,000 in attendance in a stadium that holds 42,000 people. When are local officials going to allow more fans to attend outdoor sporting events?
Well, it's hard to say when local officials. Of course, I think down in Texas they're getting much more of a turnout. But you touched on one of the points I want to make is now that baseball's decided, Major League Baseball wants to be a blue country sport. I'm taking a new interest. I've never done it before in NASCAR, and it turns out that there's a NASCAR race down in Virginia this weekend, and maybe I should take a look at that as opposed to paying attention to what goes on with the Nationals or at Camden Yard.
Well, down in Bristol, Tennessee, 2 weeks ago, they had a NASCAR race back on dirt.
Back to the roots.
They went back to the roots. So, Mark, maybe you're ahead of the times.
There you go.
That being said, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing for our corporate entities to begin to weigh in. I was intrigued with the Republican leader in the U.S. Senate indicated that he didn't think that businesses should play a role in politics, when it seems to me that politics is actually how we make sure that everybody in society can get where they need to get to. And so I was intrigued by that. And I'm waiting to see if he's actually going to start giving any of those dollars back to those businesses he didn't think should be involved in politics.
I think he precisely said that it was the comments that were being made by the business didn't reflect the substance of the law. Many of these provisions clarified in Georgia, existing provisions in Georgia, or provisions that are common in other states as well. So I think his comment was that it was based on a false premise.
Well, I know you guys immediately want to go for the political angle.
I'm going to
I want to
NASCAR.
express the local public outrage about not being able to go to a baseball game when it's clearly there's lots of ways to segregate and be separated. I went to church, for goodness sake, on Easter Sunday, and every other aisle was blocked off. I mean, and that was indoors. I mean, why couldn't we do the same thing in a baseball field? I mean, it seems, the politicians just seem to lack common sense at times. And of course, I have a vested interest here. I have a wedding that I want held on August 28th, and the damn politicians aren't moving fast enough.
Well, I got to say, I continue to be astounded with how we've managed to make this worldwide pandemic a political issue in the United States, and that you're on somehow, if you're for certain things, or if you're for masks, you're on one side. If you're against masks, you're on the other side. If you're for vaccines, if you're for people getting together, you're on one side. Like, folks, this is a collective issue. I mean, this is something we all collectively have to work to resolve, and the sooner we all collectively work to resolve it, more closely we can get back to what we think normalcy looks like.
Well, I'm anxious to see whether the 45,000 fans that attended opening day at Arlington Stadium for the Texas Ranger game will be a super spreader event, so we can have some evidence that I can have 150 people at a wedding that can eat, drink, and dance to music. That's what I'm looking forward to. When we come back from the short break, parting shots.